Joining us live to discuss this and more is Mike Leon, NTD News contributor, a policy and strategy director at the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, and the host of the news commentary podcast, Can We Please Talk? Mike, welcome back. Great to see you again. First up, what do you think of Mitch McConnell's endorsement? Do you think it will change much? And does it come as a surprise?
I don't think it comes as a surprise. Good to see you, Steph, as always. It's not a surprise to me, but also, if we recall, he announced that he was going to be stepping down from his leadership position about a week or so ago. So maybe he's thinking that even if a second Trump presidency does happen this fall going into 25, it would fall on somebody else's plate regardless. So giving the support right now, while it may seem feigned because of some of the comments that the former president has said about, Mitch McConnell and his wife, Elaine Chao. So maybe there's just, hey, you know what? I'll endorse him now because there is the off chance that he will be not only the nominee, obviously, but he could be president come 2025, and I'm leaving this leadership position anyway. So I wasn't surprised by it, but I don't think it moves the needle in either direction.
Right. And of course, we also saw the news of Nikki Haley dropping out. Do you think that impacts the race in any significant way?
Well, I mean, I said this yesterday around 2 in the morning on another network that, Nikki Haley has no money. I mean, what is the return on investment if you were one of her donors and she wanted to stay in this race past Super Tuesday? The most telling thing to me has always been, and I've said this with you, Steph and Chris as well, and on other shows here on NTD, that it's been a math problem for her, right? 100 minus 40 is 60%. So in some places where she's getting 35 to 40% of the vote, the math is not adding up. That means she's losing 60 to 65%. So overwhelmingly, Republican primary voters said that they want Donald Trump to be their nominee come this fall. And I think the big thing was, I agreed with her holistically by saying, I want to let more states be a part of this process. So we saw 16 states, kind of weigh in here this Super Tuesday, along with the other 5 along January and February. So you got a good swath of people. And she was able to take a sample and say, look, here it is, 21 states, some open primaries. The folks that were Democrat and independent didn't come over and vote for me in droves like she thought maybe they would. And so now it's time to move forward. But as you saw, she didn't endorse Donald Trump one way or the other. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, for sure. And on that note of, Nikki Haley saying she wanted to provide people with a real choice, citing that it seemed that people didn't want to see a matchup between Biden and Trump again. The White House's response to the results also leaned into their common rhetoric around defending against democracy, pointing towards former President Trump. Given the recent decisions in the legal cases against Trump and how people are responding to those, do you think that this is a winning strategy for Democrats to focus on this idea of protecting democracy with by electing them?
Right. Well, I mean, it's such a loaded question, but not really. Let me explain what I mean by that. Because the big thing is, if you talk to any Democratic strategist, they will tell you what the Biden campaign needs to do is message around his policies. If you talk to any Republican voter, they'll tell you his policies are ruining America. So if they're going to attack democracy, they already think that, Republican primary voters have shown in exit polling that they already think that what the Biden administration and specifically the Department of Justice is doing with this special counsel investigations, they already think it's politicized in nature across the jurisdictions. So you're not going to win them back by telling them that Donald Trump is the ruining the fabric of democracy. The goal for the Biden administration should be the moderates and independents that did come over and vote for you in 2020 because they were upset with Trump's handling of the pandemic, even though he got Operation Warp Speed, up and running with the vaccinations, and everybody feels a certain way about that. You should be able to message to those folks about how you've improved their lives over the last 4 years with your policies. That's the way to go about it. I mean, you can mention, but that's just overkill because the folks that are on the far left or Democratic already think that Donald Trump is a danger to their democracy. So you don't need to keep playing on that. Play on your policies. You have a low job approval ratings, a low approval rating overall. Play on what these policies have done for people over the last 4 years. Champion your record, which is what Trump is doing on the opposite side.
And just looking at this, one of the top issue for voters this election is still the economy. And a recent CBS poll shows that voters remember the economy under Trump as being better than it is currently under Biden. And yet the White House is saying that the economy is good and people just aren't feeling it. Do you think that President Biden has some room here to improve people's view on the economy if nothing else changes at this point before November?
Well, you know, Steph, the thing is that the biggest factor in economy is things that you can tangibly touch, right? You always hear the phrase of like kitchen table issues. So I go to the gas pump, I see it's, you know, a couple cents more than what it was last year. I get my grocery bill, I see that it's about 10, 15, 20 bucks more than what it was last year. The only way to fix those tangible issues is for those numbers to go back in decline, right? So that way people see the even net effect and go, oh, okay, now things are slowly starting to come back out of it. In terms of like the job reports and under the Trump economy, you know, the job reports have been good for President Biden. But if you look at the industries that are having good job growth, it's not industries, for example, like media or technology or something like that. It's other industries like hospitality and government. And so President Biden is messaging to those folks, but the folks in middle America don't work in those necessarily industries, right? So we'd have to see what the numbers play out. If President Biden is trying to win over one of these different states that the razor thin margin, you know, in Arizona or in a Georgia, we'd have to see how those issues tend to play out. We'd have to see how the legal cases play out. We have to see how the border plays out, if anything's passed legislatively over these next couple months in Congress.
That's true. You never, and also, yeah, we'll have to watch especially how the economy plays out and how people are experiencing it in those swing states. Thank you so much, Mike Leon. Great to speak with you.